Calculating your safe period and using it to either prevent pregnancy or to get pregnant is powerful. It is powerful because it is free, it is readily available, you carry it everywhere you go, and there are no side effects. Apart from that, it is very effective if properly calculated and properly applied. But many people get confused on how to calculate their safe period or their ovulation period and how to apply. So in this video, I will be showing you a very simple method you can achieve this. So the first and most important point here is that in your calculation, you start counting from the day you started bleeding, from the day you started your menses, not the day you finished. Very important. And you don't count days where you only have spotting and little blood. You start counting from the day where the menses starts fully, where you start bleeding fully. For example, if you started bleeding on the 7th, if you started your menses on the 7th and you finished on the 10th, you don't start calculating from the 10th. You start calculating and counting from the day you started bleeding. So the day you started bleeding on the 7th will be day 1, on the 8th will be day 2, on the 9th will be day 3, on the 10th will be day 4, on the 11th will be day 5, and so on. So first point, you start counting and you start calculating from the day you started your period, not from the day you finished. And the day you started your period will be day 1, the next day will be day 2, and day 3, day 4, day 5, and so on. The second very important point is day 14 is the anchor date. So if you are trying to avoid pregnancy, avoid having sex on day 14 and days around day 14. If you are trying to get pregnant, have sex on day 14 and days around 14. I will explain. Imagine you started your period on the 7th. So we said you start counting from the day you started your period. So 7th will be day 1. This will be day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? So now it means that day 14, which is on the 20th now, is the anchor date. I will explain again. You start counting from the day you started bleeding. You count that as day 1 and you keep counting till you get to day 14, right? Day 14 now is your anchor date. This anchor date will determine what you will do on that day. So if you are trying to avoid pregnancy or prevent pregnancy, don't have sex on day 14 and days around this day 14. So you avoid sex on days around day 14. I hope that's clear. But if you are trying to take in, then you have sex on day 14, starting from the day you started your period. This will be day 14. You have sex on day 14 and days around day 14, because day 14 is your ovulation date or ovulation period, and these days, day 14 and days around day 14, are when you are most likely to release the egg and most likely to get pregnant, right? And given that the sperm can sometimes survive up to 5 days, you should avoid days around day 14, including day 14. Now, the third most important point, assuming we started bleeding on the 7th and counting from the 7th, makes 20th our anchor day. That's the likely ovulation day, and makes the days around 20th, that's the days around day 14, to be the dangerous day if you want to prevent pregnancy. That leaves us with several days. Now, the third point is that days other than the day 14 and the days around day 14 are safe. So it means that all these days are safe, because day 14 and days around day 14 are not safe. All the days apart from day 14 and the days around day 14 are safe, right? So it means that your menstrual period and the days that are not close to day 14 and the days around 14 are safe. And after then, from this period down to your next menses, also safe. So first you start counting from the day you started bleeding. You count that as day 1. Day 14 and the days around day 14 are the days you have to avoid, because that is when you are most likely going to ovulate or release the egg. And so you avoid days before and days after the day 14. And thirdly, other days apart from day 14 and the days around day 14 are your safe period, and then you will be able to have unprotected sexual intercourse and most likely don't take in. It's also very important to note that since this is our ovulation date, the likely ovulation date, it can happen any day around. All right, this is just probability and the likelihood. This is when it is the likelihood is highest. Now, since this is our ovulation date, as you get closer to day 14, the likelihood of getting pregnant increases. As you get farther away from day 14, the likelihood decreases. 3 very important points. First, this method is best for people who have a regular or fairly regular menstrual cycle. And by regular or fairly regular menstrual cycle, I don't mean if you see your period 18th of this month, you will see it 18th of the next month. No, I mean the difference in the days between months is just few days. For example, if you see your period on the 10th of this month, you might see it on the 12th of next month or on the 8th of next month. And so just few days plus or minus, and you have a regular, or let's say a fairly regular menstrual cycle, and then you can use and apply this method and it will be highly effective. The second very important point is that this method is best for ladies with a 28-day menstrual cycle. Even though others with little variation in their menstrual cycle length can use it, it might not be as effective as for those with a 28-day cycle. Those with little variation from 28-day cycle can apply this by using, instead of 14, use half of the length of their cycle. But as I say, that might not be as effective as a 28-day cycle, which this method is purely designed for. Number 3, this method is not ideal and shouldn't be used by ladies with very short menstrual cycle or very long menstrual cycle. So a lady with 21-day menstrual cycle might see her period sometimes twice in a month, and a lady with a long menstrual cycle might see her period once in 2 months. So you see, this method might not be ideal for those. They should use other method of contraception, like using of condoms, abstinence, hormonal contraception, withdrawal method. And let me quickly add that even though the calculation of the safe period is very effective, it is best if you combine this method. If you want to prevent pregnancy, you combine this calendar method with other form of contraception to make sure that the effectiveness is even higher, close to 99% effectiveness in prevention of pregnancy. Did you find this video very helpful? Don't forget to hit the like button and stay subscribed. Take charge of your health and happiness.